I'm really excited because today I am being joined by the Geek Squad podcast, which, for those of you that are only listening and not watching on YouTube, I am joined by three amazing people: Mika Britt, Aurora Stoll, and Nati Eckersley. And I'm so happy you guys are here. This is the first time I've ever tried to interview three people at once. So let's see how this goes. And just thank you so much for all being here. Let's go around the circle. I'll start over. I'm looking at the computer and I can see Nati. Nati, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Really excited to be here. Thanks, Todd. We really appreciate it. It was really awesome meeting you when you joined us on our podcast, and we've been looking forward to this one. So
Yeah,
excited.
well, thank you. And then if those of you who are watching see Mika Britt, you've been practicing with us for a long time here at the studio. And so I feel like I've had a long time to get to know you. So I'm so excited. I feel really comfortable getting a chance to speak with you here. But can you tell me how you're feeling today?
Hi, Todd. Thank you. This is awesome. Happy to be here. I know you for I don't know, 15 years probably
I
by
think
now.
you're right.
I've been since when I moved to the States. So it's been a long time. Yeah, doing good. Can't wait for the conversation.
Cool. Yay. And Aurora, I'm so happy you're here. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Yeah, thank you for having me as well. I'm pretty good. I'm excited. This is our first interview, as the Gee Squad, by someone from that we've interviewed before, and then from the outside, kind of. So I'm excited to see how it goes.
Awesome. I know. I think one of the greatest ways to learn how to get better at podcasting is to be interviewed as well. And that's why I was really grateful that you all gave me the opportunity to be on your show. And then for everybody listening has an idea of how, what, why, where, and when is you all have a podcast called Gee Squad, and the three of you are actively involved in grappling and or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and or maybe there's other names we could go with. Would you even clump yourselves into the category of being MMA people, mixed martial
Mhm.
artists? No, they're shaking their head no. Is
No.
that because that's way more aggressive than the type of stuff that you all are doing, like grappling? Like, can you help me understand? I mean, part of my goal here to have you on the show, because I typically interview people that are like yoga practitioners and body workers, that I just want to build a little bit of a bridge between the work, the kind of physical practices that you all are involved in, and see if we can find any sort of similarities between what yoga is and what yoga presents and what grappling presents, and just see if do we have a connection here? Do we have similarities? Do we have similar things that we're working through? Do we have within your community? I want to ask you questions about like what you see your community facing. I'm happy to talk about what I noticed in the yoga community and ultimately build bridges because I feel like we have a lot in common. And I really enjoy being on your podcast. Everyone go check out the Gee Squad podcast, and you guys are published everywhere. So it'll be easy for people to find. It's spelled GI and then squad. So on that note, to get started, what sort of what can you, how do you, let me start with Aurora. How would you explain what you all do? What is grappling?
Oh man, grappling. Well, first we do majority of our movements and techniques on the ground. And I believe that MMA, from what I've seen and, like what I've heard and, what I've watched, doing jujitsu as opposed to anything that has to do with MMA, we don't really do a lot of striking with our hands. We don't do like a lot of striking with our elbows. It's more so like they call it the gentle art because we do a lot of chokes, we do a lot of sweeps, submissions, but I don't think it's as intense as MMA is, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
We
that
don't
does make sense.
we do a lot of self-defense movements too, but it's mainly grappling on the ground.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, like
Um,
MMA is kind of like more a combination of other
Mhm.
arts together. Like we don't do kicks or punching, you
Mhm.
know. So ours is like grappling, takedowns, positions, submissions,
Yeah.
when I think MMA is more like a compilation of everything and it's just more everything allowed, not like, jiu-jitsu, like AK said, is like more on the floor and trying to control the opponent.
Mhm.
How would
Yeah, it's a great
we?
question, Todd,
Thank
because
you.
just to
Yeah,
clarify, the
please,
name is
please.
MMA stands for mixed martial arts, and it involves everything. And I have no interest in getting punched in the face at all. So we do
Maybe,
not.
same.
Me too. Me too. Uh,
But then
Yeah,
I want to defend against that. I want to like
Yeah, yeah.
counter that movement.
well,
and
on that,
jiu-jitsu
on
also involves like, nowadays gi, né? Like when you start, we use the gi. The gi is the how to the clothes that we use. But nowadays more we have no gi also, which is another. It comes from the jiu-jitsu, so we don't use gi. It's normally like a shirt and a short, but they all mixed with jiu-jitsu. Like they all
Mhm.
um, can consider also jiu-jitsu. No gi and gi. That's how the division, between both.
Gotcha, gotcha. Is it because the gi gives you more leverage to be able to grab onto something and have strong leverage, or like what's the benefit to grappling wearing a gi versus grappling wearing street clothes?
Oh,
Uh,
we have a whole episode on that.
I
Oh,
know.
I'm sorry, I
I
didn't listen to that
It's
one.
great. No,
Can you
that's
no,
condense
no, no, absolutely.
that?
It's a great, you're going to have different people, everybody has different votes on it and what they prefer. It's always a preference.
Yeah,
But with the gi, you do have kind of more control, right? You have those grips that you can grab onto, and it's the traditional, so it's more classical kind of jujitsu. But with that control also comes, it kind of slows it down as well, whereas the no-gi is very fast paced and it can be almost a little bit more athletic in the sense that you're going faster and it's a lot slipperier. You have to get those controls have to be really, really tight. Also with the gi, but it's just a little bit slower, I think.
interesting.
that's where you see like a lot of young people, they prefer the no gi because it's way faster. The
Mm,
moves is way faster. Like the gi, you see like more old style, like there is everything now, younger and older, but like the older prefer that because it's slow down and it's the tradition, and
Mhm.
the
yeah.
young one they is fast, they fast, stronger, like explosion, so they prefer the no gi, most of them.
I think you have more ability to like there. It's almost like you have more tools at your disposal too,
Mhm.
because you can also use your gi to choke your opponent. Like the pellet chokes. There's all different kinds. I've been in them plenty of times. So it's pretty powerful. I mean, you can subdue an opponent with it, you can choke an opponent with it, you can sweep an opponent with it, I believe. So I think it gives you more tools and it also allows you to, like Natalie and Mika are saying, slow your opponent down.
Yeah, interesting. Like there's a little bit of a thing in the yoga world where there's this idea that old school yoga in India was practiced in a quiet space without a lot of external stimulation. And then in our current sort of scene in the yoga community, we can go into a yoga class where there'll be really loud, pumping music uh, that can seem just like intense and distracting. And it seems like a lot of folks love that and they're attracted to it. But then like the traditionalist is like, why do we need all that really loud music? I thought we're practicing to kind of hear our internal dialogue and come to grips with that and maybe work with it. And it
Yeah.
sounds a little bit like there's in this grappling community that there's almost this old school guard and then there's
Yes.
this new school sort of
Yeah.
trend. And what other things have you noticed within your community where there's this older and new way of doing where there's like a little bit of tension between these opposing ways of going about it?
Mhm.
I'll
I'm
direct
gonna
that to
say
yeah, whoever can think of something first.
maybe I've noticed that I haven't per se been to like another school and I've attended another one regularly besides the one we go to, which is known to be very classic, and very it has like that more old school approach as opposed to all of these other gym or these other schools.
Yeah.
And a lot of these other schools have more nogi, I notice, and they bring in kind of like a younger crowd, which I've also noticed. But I think that's because there are more rules, there's more respects that you pay with the gi. It's
Wow.
we bow before we get on the mats, we bow when we get off.
Got it.
There are certain things like you do not ask a higher belt to roll with you, they need to ask you. Like there are a lot of things that kind of come into play more that you need to abide by for respect.
How important do you feel that is to your own personal practice of grappling?
Huge.
Yeah. What
Huge.
would you,
Respect, it's everything.
Yes.
yeah. What do you think, Mika?
Yeah, I think, there is place like if you talk about yoga and jiu-jitsu, the jiu-jitsu, there is place that's more family oriented because if you think like you're there and you kind of you're wrestling with each other, so there's kids, there's families there. So there is, I think that's a little bit division. There is gyms that's all like for more competition, for more because it grew a lot. Jiu-jitsu is just expanded like there is competition every weekend if you're gonna find out in the United States, like around us.
Yeah.
So I think there's that division also. It's just like yoga, there's the tradition, the thing, and then like nowadays there's all these they call like I don't know what they call some kind of name and like what is that?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
because there's all different people that wants those different things though, but we are on a very family and traditional gym,
Got it. Got it.
very I think so,
Well, that's
I think
cool.
so too. Yeah, I agree.
Which is nice because there's different, everybody has different personalities. So it's like you can find a gym that kind of suits your personality and what you're looking at to get out of this journey, right? So like for us, we want to, some of us want to compete, some of us all of us, I think, want to be in this for the long run, especially at our gym, because like we said, we're very family oriented. So we're all kind of geared on the long-term journey. And a lot of us are older. We're not in our teens or 20s. So we had this kind of different mentality about it. But it is nice having such a nice variety nowadays that if it doesn't suit you, you can find another place that might suit you.
It is really for everyone now,
That's cool.
But
It kind of broke up a little,
can you
Nazi,
guys
but what
hear me?
I think you were saying is that like, if someone goes to one gym and doesn't have a good experience, there's so many different ways to go about it. And that's something that's super common in yoga where there's so many different aspects of yoga, and people have ideas of what they're going to get when they go. So when someone comes into our studio, and if they didn't like it, I usually encourage them to definitely go try somewhere else because there might be a completely different approach to it that you'll then gravitate towards. So I definitely see that as something that also is similar. I'm curious because of you reaching out, Mika, and inviting me onto your podcast. We brainstormed and came up with the idea of doing a yoga for grapplers class that we're going to hold here at our studio on August 2nd at 2 p.m. And so, with that being said, I'll be the one that's going to be teaching the class. So I'm curious. What do you guys deal with the most physically? What do you think you need? What do you think yoga could help with? I guess I'll start with that one question. What do you guys get? What do you face on a regular basis, and what do you, in your mind, see yoga as being something that could actually help you facilitate your practice?
I think
A
it helps
lot of
elongate your muscles,
things
honestly.
we're constantly in this kind of like in the ball. We curl into a ball,
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I'm looking forward to yoga, help us stretch us out,
Kind of expand.
opening up that, elongating.
What other type of workouts do you guys do as a cross training for your grappling experience?
I started swimming again.
Cool.
Yeah,
Swimming.
so a little bit less like gravity on my joints and my muscles
Yeah.
because your
Yeah.
joints and if you have like a more like buoyant type of muscle mass, like I do, I'm shorter and my muscles are a little bit more like compact, I would say. And already being in like compact positions all the time, kind of like Sonic. I think Natalie said that to me one time. And it does make sense. We're always all balled up. And I think a lot of yoga from some of the classes I've taken in the past couple of months is more about like opening and stretching and elongating your muscles.
Nice.
So,
Cool.
I think yoga is a huge complement for
mhm.
jiu-jitsu, because if you think about it, like if you're on the floor, we on the floor, we always like that. We always like that. Elbows are always close to the body. or you're always like that on the top. And then like I think the fact that yoga opens a lot, opens your chest, your heart, and shoulders, it's is like it's amazing. I try to go to your class every Wednesday, the Whack Wednesday class, that I love it. Um, and when I get there, when I leave, it's just like wow, it changed the way, because we
Yeah,
don't
sit.
realize, but we always like kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, jujitsu teaches us, so if you extend a limb, you're exposing it.
Mhm.
So we are constantly trying to train
Mm.
ourselves to not extend a limb until it's absolutely necessary. So we're constantly defending by keeping our limbs nice and close to us. But
Mhm.
then because of that, I think we're not getting that, extension.
Yeah,
And
this is
so
a great thing. That's what he said. It's exactly it. So we're always protecting in, but then yoga, you always open, we always extend. So I think it's just huge
Very
for
Mhm.
cool. Well, that's great information. Thank you for that. I'm curious what Uh, I'll give you a yoga example, and then maybe it'll make it easier to answer this question. So most people are going to go to yoga because they're thinking that they want to not be in pain, not have the problems that they have. And then you can get really serious about your yoga, push too hard, and then realize that you have to heal from going a little too big in the yoga practice. One really classic place in yoga that people complain about pain within the world of vinyasa yoga, where we're going from a high push-up position down into a low push-up position, is people sometimes get shoulder pain, right where the kind of long head of the biceps attaches up into the kind of clavicle area. And so I'm curious, is there something like one, two, or three of the most common pain points from grapplers that you hear of? Because like I'll always hear people say, "Oh, my shoulders," that's a real common one. Is there something that we could probably go through the entire body and go like I've had my whole body hurt at some point since I started grappling and doing yoga, but I'm just curious if there's like key core places so I could help to design something for you all that makes sense.
Right now, it's my rib.
All right. So ribs. Okay.
I think
What happened to your
shoulders.
rib? What did you do?
It's just I popped some of the cartilage in the lower part of my rib, but that's
Ooh.
from it's my own fault from staying in a position and then moving before I push someone off of me to move. So it's like I
And
contorted in a funky way
pop cartilage where the rib head meets at the facet joint on the spine, or pop cartilage
in the
in the
front.
in the front and
Yeah, in the
and where
front.
the rib attaches onto the sternum?
Yeah, and
Ooh.
kind of like in that area. Yeah.
So how much pain are you in?
I'm okay right now. It's a re-injury, and I
Okay.
just I just didn't let it heal. And then we did some stuff on Monday night, and we were in certain positions. So where, we were on top of each other, like, you know, it was a weird position. And it kind of just popped it back out of place a little bit.
Okay.
So, I mean, ribs take time
Yeah,
too.
they do. Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's just a healing waiting game.
All right. So we
Yeah.
have dislocated ribs. Mika, what is your
Uh, I'm
current
currently
challenge?
doing okay, but I think shoulders is a
Yeah.
shoulders is a big thing, just because the position, the people
Yeah.
like squishing you all the time. Knees, I think, is a big thing, and a lower back also.
All
Hmm.
right.
Lower back is a big thing, but I think the most is just the opening. Always
Yeah.
the opening and try, because it's always makes. I think it's like
That
it's
makes sense. It sounds like you're saying you're more using your pec majors to kind of keep your body in close like this, and very rarely
yes,
are you stretching the front part of your body, and pulling your shoulder blades together on your back. That's not going to
yes,
happen. You're going to be kind of forward
yeah.
rounded. Interesting. Natia, I saw that you're back in. I see a little movement. Oh, I don't see movement. Can you hear us? All right, we'll give Natia a little chance to kind of work with her internet.
Yeah.
So and and then I'm also really curious, do you know, if I have a injury and I'm gonna practice yoga, I just have to kind of wrestle with my own ego
Yes.
to um hold myself back. Yay, you're back, Nati. where I was mentioning that if I have an injury and I go and practice, I really only have to contend with my own ego to hold myself back from pushing into an area that hurts. However, I'm imagining that when you're grappling, if you have an injury and you're now interacting with another human force, is it smart, possible, or impossible to still grapple and take care of your injury? Or do you have to just step away from grappling until you heal? You know what I mean? Like,
Great
isn't it
question.
really
I think you should
risky?
listen that from Natalie. I think
I
she
can.
has a very
Yeah,
good.
she's
Agree.
got personal experience in this
I have a
department.
lot to
Well,
say.
what?
I do. So hopefully I won't lose you guys again. But I had a recent back injury myself about 3 or 4 months ago, I think it was. And it was hard to hear because one of the things that I pretty much got told by my doctor was to just come back and do injections, and that was it. No other advice, really nothing. And like you said, it's hard. How do we go about this, right? We want to get better. And luckily, I reached out to other people who have gone through similar situations and also met you in the process who had a similar back issue also, which was really nice to hear. You kept going, you find a way. So I had to do just that. But for as far as with grappling, I did have to take some time off actually having pressure on me because I can do the techniques. I could do them for a long time. And luckily I work with people who worked with me, AK and Mika, all my training partners. I would have to tell them like, hey, just don't put any pressure on me, which is hard to do if you're grappling. So we could do it just technique wise. So I could practice the motions and do everything. But I had to take that time because like any excessive force on me could make it worse, right?
Hmm.
So, like you said in yoga, you might be able to practice on your own little baby steps, but then if you actually had someone on top of you, it'd be different. So,
Yeah.
with grappling, you definitely have to take a little bit of time off. But one thing that I'm hoping people will hear here is that it doesn't mean it's forever because, that's a very scary moment at first when you hear it and you think it's going to be forever, but it's not. It took baby steps. So, first, I had to remove the additional weight.
Yeah.
And then slowly I could do a lot of the techniques. And then now I'm back to being able to roll and it's great. But it took time and I had to do very baby steps with everything, start from little no weights with anything and I did a lot of cross training right now in my injury process. I'm learning what I could and couldn't do. And then now I'm able to do a lot more. But I did some Pilates, as with Mika too. I did some Pilates and it's swimming. I've done a lot of mobility work now. So I've been focused on that. So now I'm trying to get back into the game, but still being smarter about it. And
Nice.
I think that is one thing that we noticed we had a lot in common in jiu-jitsu and yoga is that if you love it, you are going to find a way and you can still absolutely practice it by listening to your body, which is that's the bigger picture. That's what we're supposed to be learning is to listen to it very well, which we don't do when we're younger. But
Right.
now we do. And it kind of guides you like, oh, my back's a little tight today. So maybe I'll do a little bit more mobility today and less grappling. It's nice. I'm in a good place now, which is great.
It's interesting. I remember as a kid taking Taekwondo with my dad and going to class, and someone came and kicked him really hard in the side of his knee and made his knee buckle, and he suffered knee pain pretty seriously after. And I remember the sensei or the teacher at the time was like, he said, like basically reprimanded the guy big time, kind of like, it's completely inappropriate. Why would you do that? Like that clearly was going to injure that individual. And it just really seemed like the person was getting off work and had a lot of steam and anger, and he was just unleashing his fury in the room. I'm curious, do you witness that in your grappling environment? It sounds like you guys are consciously choosing an environment that's more family orientated, where there's this respect and care for one another, and that obviously has to be cultivated by the person that's running the space to make sure that everybody stays on par with that. But I'm just curious, like in relation to what you were saying to Natalie and what both Aurora and Mika, what you guys have experienced, if you communicate with someone, like, do you choose to not grapple with someone that you don't feel like is honestly going to listen to you? Is that part of it? Or and like what is the communication process that has to happen to keep it all safe and healthy?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
and you can go first because she's the queen of like she is good at saying no to things that
Mm, nice,
and creating that boundary.
I
nice.
think we all do,
Yeah.
I think it's always, uh, I mean, so you want to be there, right? So you want to like yoga, you want to be there. So you have to advocate for yourself. The only person that's going to protect yourself for yourself,
Hmm.
right? So like for you to be able to be there, like I mean, I am not on my 20s, I'm on my 50s, almost. So if I don't say that, or if I don't tell what's going on, like I mean, the chance that I'm gonna get hurt is like bigger, right? So I normally say, I mean, there are another thing also. There is the girls and there's the guys, right? So there's guys that knows how to handle us, and how to go slow, or how to, there's no cannot compete there, right? There's no competition between us and them. So, but there's people that don't understand that. They don't know. They're not used to train with girls. They came from another gym, or they don't like, or they don't want, or they don't want to learn on, and it's difficult. So you have to advocate for yourself. You
Yeah.
need to know where you can. And even with between me and Kay and Natalie, which I think we are always kind of more together and trying to do the things together, because the weight also, right? So we always I tell all the time, Natalie, like get out from my chest or whatever,
Get
because
off me.
yes, get out, man, no. Because it's reality. Sometimes we can. And there is other thing also that is age, it's
Mm,
reality. You getting old, and then things get a little bit more complicated, and you don't want to get hurt. So
understood. What would you say, Aurora? Do you agree with all that?
Oh, I agree with that completely. I've, I mean, actually, honestly, when I started jujitsu, I don't know if it was just a fear of getting hurt or me just, I don't know if it was strategic or the fear or maybe a little bit of both. And after having Natalie and Mika to kind of I guess I learned from a lot of what they were doing too,
From our injuries.
in the injuries that they were
Mm,
experiencing. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to roll with that person for a little bit. I'm not going to roll with this person maybe for a little bit, And sometimes you have the ranks of the belts, and I mean, I'm a culprit of it too. You just have to go through it when you're a white belt. You're extremely spastic. You're going through something where someone may be choking you or is putting pressure on you, and some at first you have a little bit of these freak out moments where you go spastic, and that's actually like a normal human response for a lot of people. It's that fight or flight response, and a lot of jujitsu is learning how to tame that and to channel it appropriately, and positively. And when you first start out, you have a lot of blue belts, purple belts, brown, and obviously black, who are there to kind of try and mold and teach you the best way that they may know how. But at the same time, if you're rolling with these white belts and even people who are just so much bigger than you, sometimes they don't even realize that their weight, that they're them being very spastic and not being able to control them with your own body, you can get seriously hurt. And they just don't, a lot of them don't realize that. I've come into contact with some people who really, really don't get that until, they get the popped rib or they get the hurt wrist or their shoulder. And most people there learn from that.
mm.
Yeah.
But I will say it's happened a few times in our gym.
I
Yeah.
just want to add,
Please.
like Mika said, super important. We and I think through the journey you learn to really advocate for yourself. So at first it's like a
Mhm.
little bit and it's uncomfortable, but as time goes by, you get an injury, you get better. All these things happen. You realize how important it is to really speak up, even if it's a little uncomfortable. But also the importance of we can't do this alone. So it really brings up that community factor where I can't, if Mika and AK and then everybody who's the same, similar size to me, if they're all out injured, then what do I have? I have absolutely nothing. I don't have anyone to train with. So I take care of myself, but I also want to take care of them. And same as vice versa. That's why, and I think that's where a lot of the respect comes from. So when Mika tells me like, hey, my shoulder's kind of bothering me, then I try to keep it in mind because I don't want her getting hurt. I don't want her to be out forever, you know? And so we kind of eventually start evolving together, and it's a beautiful, you know, symbiotic relationship.
That's really cool. I love hearing it from the angle that you're pointing to. One makes me think, like this morning, I noticed that I have someone that'll come into the Ashtanga room, and Ashtanga yoga is a very traditional type of yoga practice, at least within the Hatha yoga, like posture yoga world. And there's two things I want to kind of point out. I'll come back to this one, which I think is fascinating, the whole belt system in martial arts, and yoga does not have that. I actually think in some ways we could benefit if we did, but I'll come back to that one second. The other thing that I want to point out though first is that I'll notice that there's somebody who comes in and she's really strong. She's got a really strong practice and she puts a lot of energy. She's there 6 days a week. And another student who came in slowly started kind of gravitating towards setting up near where she is. And they become really, I feel like, good friends, and they kind of push each other in a way where even though it's a very unique and individual practice, each person is doing their own thing. We're not physically contacting, apart from the fact that personally as an instructor, I'm walking around and helping physically, like if someone's lifting their leg, I'll help assist and lift their leg up. So there is some contact between the instructor and the student or the practitioner, but the practitioners themselves pretty much don't, nor typically. But what I've been trying to cultivate a little bit in the Mysore room is that if I'm busy or if I'm having a day where my back is really sore and I physically know that if I try to lift bodies, it'll probably not be good for me. I'll kind of, can you take one of the students and bring them over and say, can you please help and assist this person for me today? So I do feel like we do have kind of a camaraderie in the room that you're talking about. So I guess I just enjoying noticing like the real difference of the fact that you guys are literally locked in with each other and kind of moving forces around, as opposed to like when we're practicing on the mat, it's a very individualized thing. But now to go back to the whole belt thing, in India, when you go practice Ashtanga yoga, there's a first series, a second series, a third series, and a fourth series. And when you are a newbie, kind of like what you were saying, Aurora, like the white belts just have to kind of, we're spastic. Like as a new practitioner, we walk in, we're spastic. Like we want to try so hard to be as good as the black belt right away. But as you guys probably have noticed, you can't just go from white belt non-skill level to black belt in one day. Like there is a process that goes down to finally get to that point where you probably feel really proud, I bet, putting a black belt on. And similar in yoga with Ashtanga yoga, it's kind of held the way it's held in India, or was for a long time, is that you don't get to move into the next pose until you exhibit a certain level of proficiency in the pose that you're on. So you'll be moving through a series of poses, you'll get to a specific place, and then if you're working on that pose, you really won't add any more on. And then you'll look at the person that's doing four series and almost be in awe of what they can do. You know, you watch them and it's like, how is that even possible? Could I do that? And they're like, yeah, I started just like you did if you keep working. But then you'll look at your body and you'll feel your body and be like, but my body is so different to your body. Like, how are like, I think you were born with that ability. And they're like, no, no, no. I had to work just as hard. I mean, no one really comes in with the perfect setup. Everyone's got to kind of work if you're really interested and keep doing. So I guess with a point I want to bring a little bit about the belt series is that a lot of people want to start teaching yoga before they've actually practiced a lot of yoga. In your world of grappling, is it you don't start teaching until you become a black belt? Do you have to go through a certain level of like rank and file before you're accepted as a teacher? How does that work?
So you also, I teach, I coach. So, and I'm a blue belt, so I'm nowhere near the black belt. You know, I'm just one stage up from white belt. But I coach classes, so you do have to go through like a certification process. And there is, I think everyone once you get past white, you start kind of coaching people. And just like you said, it is wonderful, like to see how a blue belt, a purple belt will start helping the white belts, and you kind of start, everybody needs everybody, right? Like we need the white belt to practice on too, and then they need us to kind of guide them along. So there is a process for certification purposes, and then, you know, training and whatnot. But it's kind of, at least in our school, it's almost more like if you start showing an interest in teaching, you know, and then you kind of have to try to find your journey and go about it, and then do everything required for it too.
Cool. Interesting.
But I think generally most people start teaching around purple belt and above. Obviously, like I teach the little kids class and then I teach the women's self-defense. So I wouldn't, you know, you don't want to be, I don't want to be teaching like brown belts and black belts because they know more about what they're doing. But I like know the general concepts of the basics, right? So
Cool.
I'm not way ahead.
That
I'm
makes
just,
sense. Yeah.
so yeah.
Awesome. Mika, do you notice that there is a, like, I don't, okay, I'll just throw my question out first before I start picking it apart. Do you notice that there is like snobs or ego involved in the black versus the white? And how do you
Oh, no.
personally and or your community try to keep everybody on a relatively what's the right way to say it? Like keeping it accessible where, you know, like if you walk into a room and you see a bunch of black belts that are just like, I'm not even gonna look at you. I'm not even gonna talk to you. Like you are not worthy of my time. You're just a fledgling beginner. Do you get that? Or people, how is that kept at bay in your community?
I think with the black belts, I don't think they have that anymore because they are right on a level, you know, they just the level that they can look out for you or teach you or, you know, be together. But I think there is more of that in between the belts, you know, in between people. And our gym is pretty reasonable, but I go to Brazil and like when I go to the gym there is like 10, 15 black belts, like the same of the color belt, you know, 10, 15 black belts, and the color belts also 10, 15. And, you know, I think it keeps very on that difference between white and blue and purple for the black. I think it's between more the color belts together, you know, that gets a little bit
Mm,
more.
Mhm.
interesting. All right.
But also you talk about yoga for teaching, you know, you gotta be there. Like jiu-jitsu has something different. Jiu-jitsu has something that, you know, of course you move your belts because you know your knowledge, your skills, but also time on the mat. You know what I mean? Because there's people that's there just not to compete, they're just there to do some exercise in the end of the day. So the and there's people that there. There's someone that's trained with us. She's 5 years old, seven
Yeah.
seven
Mhm.
7 years old. You know, we can you know, we can compare with some of us, you know, because it's reality. She does an amazing job, great, but it still cannot
Yeah.
compare to the same. So I think like when you talk about, you know, Ashtanga, they gotta be on a level there, but also it can be on a level, but there is some kind of margin, a time on the mat,
Yeah.
consistent time on
Yeah.
the mat, rather than maybe be on that level, you
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
That's
Showing more
cool.
like dedication and like Mika saying consistency and
Nice. Nice.
showing up every week, a couple of times a week on an always consistent basis. And that is also a big thing for jujitsu is like the dedication that you have towards it. It's not just about, your ability level and your strength or the ability to understand and comprehend all of the techniques, you know. I think there's I don't want to say handicap, but like when you're golfing, but that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
And older people when they're golfing, like they are given a handicap because technically they're not going to be at the same level as somebody who's, say 30 years old as compared to somebody who's 7 years old. There has to
Yeah.
be some type of middle ground there. So,
Yeah, that's fascinating. Oh my gosh, it's so interesting. I like that. I like that concept of thinking of that 77-year-old person that you're speaking of, Mika, that the teacher could identify or see a certain quality of like, you're showing such incredible commitment and dedication. I'd like to gift you or move you to the next belt that that
Yeah.
there's a different type of criteria for each one. It's not just this one thing. You have to kick through 15 boards before. I mean, I'm using more of a Taekwondo analogy, but like, so I don't know what the grappling, the equivalent of breaking boards in grappling is. What is there a certain thing, like a certain crazy skill thing that you can do that's like, whoa, that person pulled that off? Is it in grappling, is it like with a move like to be able to get somebody if you're being laid on that you can then flip and get them down on the ground? Is there like a few specific moves that everybody wishes that they could do?
So we do those also, but yeah, I mean there are, but it's mainly submissions would probably be the main thing that we like all are in awe. Oh, they got that, that rear naked choke, or they got that arm bar. It's like beautiful. Depending on how they did it, it's different. And there's all different types. There's like the more modern Barambolos, and there's the more traditional types too, the Ezekiels and whatnot. So there are plenty. I wanted to really quickly say too with the belts. There was one analogy that I heard once that's really stuck with me, and it really kind of seems to work well when I think about it. They once told me that a white belt is somebody who can recognize kind of like the alphabet, right? They can recognize kind of certain things. Then a blue belt, then like they can put words together, and then purple, the sentences, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of, it applies because for most people, like we said, the journey's different for everyone, and it shows when you meet a blue belt, a purple belt. Not everyone's gonna be, it's not gonna be the same skill. Not every purple belt's gonna have the absolute same skills as the next purple belt, but they'll have the same general concept usually. So like once you get to purple, you can do like more sequences. So similar to what you were saying in yoga. And it would be pretty cool if yoga had kind of belts. Because anytime I meet anybody now that's like, you've done yoga for over 10 years, in my head, I'm like, they're a black belt in this subject. That's how I like automatically think about it. And then it means they have a lot of experience and knowledge. Whether they can do this crazy back bend or not, maybe not, maybe yes, but they have the time. And it shows when people have 10 years dedicated into something.
Yeah, great point. Aurora, I'm curious, so are you aiming for black belt?
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, do you have your sights on? Do all three? Is anyone what belts are you? Wait, you already said, Nati, that you're blue. I think you said blue.
Mika's the highest. She's purple. AK and I are blue.
And purple goes what? After purple, it's black, I think, right?
No, it's brown.
Brown.
Brown and then black.
And do you guys do the stripe thing or no? Is it just
Yeah.
And how many stripes do you have to get on your belt before you get to go to the next color?
4 stripes.
4. And so are all 3 of you seriously striving? Like, do you wake up in the morning and go, man, I'm gonna get there. I'm not giving up. I'm getting to black.
Maybe not every morning, but at least at some point in the day, every day, it is in my mind.
Mika, what about you? I'm trying to read your facial expression. I can't tell what you're thinking.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right.
But also like I kind of like enjoyed the journey. I try to be there, and like, there is the part that we train, but there is the part that jiu-jitsu is awesome because there is always something to talk about it. You know what I mean? It's just
Hazena, is that what you call it?
Always together.
What would you say, Aurora? I missed that. Say.
Is that how you say it, Mika, in Portuguese? Hazena?
Yeah, we call like when we do that after jiu-jitsu, like everybody's talking, always something, we call resenha. Resenha is like what is that, Natalie? Is a shit talk.
It's talking after the mat, and you're just like,
I don't know, there's not a word in English, but it's just resenha is, if you are in Brazil, they will tell like, after jiu-jitsu always has a resenha, which is like the talking, the community, the community together.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu has a strong community everywhere. It's very nice.
That's so cool. I know I saw pictures of when you were in Brazil, Mika, and I like, without reading the caption that you wrote, the aura of the photos was like, wow, what an incredible community down there. That looks so neat. It really looked amazing. I'm curious, I recently met a woman that said that me being a man, I didn't understand how much women, like, she said to me, well, when you go to your car, do you ever carry your keys and put your keys inside your knuckles like you're ready to, like, for somebody to do something to you? And I said, no, I really don't. And she's like, well, as a woman, I always, we travel differently than men do. Like we'll like, hey, we're walking to our car, let's walk together. Or we'll think about what we're going to do. So I guess I'm curious, since all three of you are women, how has learning self-defense helped you navigate that and give you confidence? Does it interact? How do you
100%.
how do you feel about all that? Does it, and then I guess any other women that are listening that maybe are yoga practitioners that would be thinking to themselves, I would never do grappling because I don't know, I just have never even thought about it before. But can you just talk a little bit about what it's like from the female side and what sort of benefits can come for those that are interested?
It's huge. The benefit is huge. I started jiu-jitsu because of self-defense. I wanted to have tools. And the truth is, I wanted to be able to, I mean, not even for myself, because it was more as a mom, right? I thought, what if something happened to me and my kids were there? And I needed to buy some time before the cops could show up, because nowadays cops are busy. It can take like 20 minutes, right? So I thought, what would I do in the meantime? Like, what if my phone was dead? How would I stall? I don't, and that's the truth of it is the self-defense that we learn. I'm not saying I finished the fight, but I definitely put up a really good one. So that was what I went in, and I remember I didn't know anything. So I went in and I fell in love with it immediately. But the
Very cool.
main difference for any women is I feel like, and that's the same as the black belt, right? The black belts that you see, a lot of that ego that Mika was saying, is you see most of them don't have the ego. Of course, there's some personalities, right? But most of them, it's like it's gone. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that they know they have this skill, but by the time you're a black belt, you don't really even have to prove it anymore, and you don't feel like you have to prove it. And I think it's the same for women when we start doing self-defense and we slowly realize that we are powerful and we can protect ourselves and protect those around us. It builds this voice, right? Uh, One of the biggest things, black belt or a woman, for example, we realize like it might not get to the fight level. Most of the time, it's not going to get to the fight level. Is you are able to stop it just vocally, but most of us women don't have that voice. We don't have that ability to stick up for ourselves like that. I started doing self-defense. And one of the things we practice is we practice saying like, hey, back off, right? And it's funny because at the gym, we all do it and we all just kind of, hey, back off. And we just joke, we like say it, but none of us really want to yell it. And most of the time we don't yell it. But a few months after I started doing self-defense, I was reading my book in my car, and it was like 5 a.m. because I was waiting for the class to start, super dark in a little strip mall, no one else around. And this guy came banging on my window. I immediately, first words that came out of my mouth, back off. And he backed away. And then he was, I just need a ride to the gas station, which was 2 blocks down. And I said, no, back off, And I can tell you for a fact that if I hadn't been taking that self-defense class, the first words out of my mouth would have been, who can I call? What do we, it would have been to help, because as women, we just like to help. And so that was huge. And when I realized, and I did the typical woman thing a couple months, later, thinking, what if he needed help? No, there was a gas station 2 blocks down. He didn't need help from a woman in a car when it was pitch black, and I think, to me, whenever I think about the difference that jiu-jitsu has done, it's given me that empowerment of knowing I can take care of myself, and that I need to take care of myself, but I'm capable of it. And just knowing I'm capable of it, knowing I have some tools, which are just my body, it makes me walk a little stronger than what.
Amazing. Great answer,
I
Natalie.
think also like there is also like she said, the physical, the awareness, but I think you already mental prepare, like you mental prepare yourself. Training helps develop ability to stay calm. So if you're training, you train also ability to stay calm and make decision under pressure, on those situations. So I think this is, not that like, I'm 120 pounds, 26 pounds, and someone come like 200 and something, but I think you mental prepare for that also, combined with like some skills that you have, if you like, exactly like she said, you can gain some time on the situation.
Yes.
Well, I saw it with my kids too. They did jujitsu, and I wanted them to be able to protect themselves, like against bullies, right? That was the main focus for putting them in. And watching my son get choked for the first time, and it sounds terrible when you say it like that, but when he got into that submission, it was pure panic. and he looked at me and he tapped, which is what we do at the gym. You tap as soon as you feel it and they let go, so it's a controlled environment. So it is really great that that's his first place of experiencing that, and hopefully never experiences it outside. And that's the same thing we want for women. Some of them come with already a lot of trauma. A lot of us, most of us, have probably been through something. And so you might be going through trauma again. But we hope that if it's not your first time, that the next time, if it were to happen, that you won't have that panic mode, because none of us think, we all watch the movies and we think like, oh, I know what to do, or, I can do this. But no, the first thing you're going to do is absolutely panic. If you get choked, or if you get put in a headlock, and that panic can really freeze you, or you can do something that's actually counterintuitive. If not counterintuitive, it's counterproductive, because our immediate response when someone's grabbing you is immediately pull. If someone way bigger than me tries to pull me, they're going to win, right? And I'm just going to exhaust myself. But jiu-jitsu teaches you how to use your body, how to use the technique properly against somebody way bigger, so you have more of a chance. So I know I'm not going to pull, I'm going to do a certain technique that might get a little closer. Actually, a lot of what we do is meaning we need to get closer to get away. So seeing my kid going through that first time, I saw that look of panic, and I saw what that first experience of someone, being in a position they're really uncomfortable in and could be very traumatic. 2 weeks later, he already knew how to get out of it. He was in the same position, the same kid doing the same thing, and he knew how to get out of it. Biggest, most important thing about it was that he did it without panicking. He just did step 1, step 2, did the things, and he got out. And that's the biggest factor, is you don't have that panic mode, which we're all going to have. You're probably going to freeze. Maybe very few of you won't freeze, but most of us will freeze that first couple times, until we get comfortable knowing how to handle the situation a little bit.
Great point.
Yeah.
What
I
do
was
you
at a
think,
gas
Laura?
station when something like that happened to me actually recently. It was during like the Easter weekend, I believe, and it was just my daughter and I. And I went to a gas station to go and pick something up for her. It's always at a gas station. I went to a gas station to pick something up for her and to run inside really quickly. And when I got out of my car and she was walking with me, and we were walking towards the front door. And as I was walking towards the front door, I could see out of my peripheral someone was walking towards us on the right-hand side. And I looked at him very quickly, and then I looked at Kaylee and I looked at him, and he saw me looking at him, and he started walking directly towards us. And he didn't have a shirt on, he didn't have shoes. His shorts were like really kind of like very dirty. And he kind of looked like he wasn't all there in the face. So, and he just started brisk walking towards me. So I immediately told my daughter, get in the car. And I said, you need to back away. And he said, but wait, ma'am. And I said, no, you need to back away. And so I immediately got in my car, and he kind of stopped in his tracks and just looked at me like this. And then he turned back around. These people think that sometimes when they're coming for you, that you're not going to say anything and that you're not going to speak up and that you don't really see them. And they expect you just to be nice. And then you allow them to get close enough to you, and that's when they harm you. So even just doing that, like Natalie said, and speaking up and having the confidence to speak up and not caring if you're going to hurt the other person's feelings or not, that's a big deal. And that could save your life and your kid's life. It's
Yes.
powerful.
Oh, it is. It's so good to hear that.
Mhm.
It's interesting. I love that you said that you mentioned like it's not even going to get to, you learn skills that will actually buy time and make it where you're like so direct. It almost, they don't expect it. Like people just don't expect that you're going to, like you
You're like,
said,
oh, you
stand
see
up for
me?
yourself.
You see
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
coming at you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you're more confident to make direct eye contact with somebody.
Yeah.
And for some reason, whenever you look at somebody dead in the face and in the eyes, like I see you, for some reason it indicates to them like, okay, this is probably somebody that I don't want to interact with, because they're giving me a vibe that like,
Yeah.
they're not backing down. It's almost animalistic at that point, where you are going to a standoff with someone else or something else. And if you don't run from it, if you don't, cower from it, then usually they back off most of the time. I mean, from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I feel like in the yoga meditation world, there's a similar philosophy with fear in relation to meditation, if we sit and we start sitting quietly and different thoughts might come up, or like you had made mention that like kind of all of us have had some sort of like traumatic experience, most likely. And then, fear can be crippling, and it almost feels to me like it's like some guy coming at you with something, and like, but when you face it and you stand it clear and like really face it, and it's like fear just dissipates. It like can disappear because you were feeling bold enough to actually be strong to stand in its way. So it's really fascinating to hear you explain it like on the physical level. I feel like in the yoga world, we're doing a little bit more of that when we're meditating, like we'll have this thought and it's like, oh my God, that's freaking me out. You know what I mean? But it's more like, okay, turn toward it and acknowledge it, and then watch what happens. And it's fascinating how that occurs both mentally but also physically, like we're in the physical world, in the physical environment.
Mhm.
You guys are amazing. You all are really cool. I'm so happy that I'm getting a chance to further conversation with you all. I'm really excited for our yoga class, and I feel like I learned a lot from speaking with you all today as to like how I'll try to structure the class when you all arrive. I really want to encourage everybody listening to, even if you have no interest in everything that we talked about, but if you're still here, you probably do, to go and send you guys a little bit of love on your podcast channel, whether it's through your social media, because you guys are on Instagram at Gee Squad, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Geese, yes, Instagram, Geese Squad Podcast,
cool, cool.
YouTube,
YouTube.
and
YouTube
Spotify.
and Spotify. So I'll put all those links in the description. So if you're listening, it's going to be easy to find them. And those of us that are working in this realm where we're like sharing conversation through the internet, every little bit of like fodder that you give us, like a little like and some love and some comments and stuff like that, is like really huge. Like we really appreciate it. So even if you might think this is so silly, like these guys don't want to hear what I have to say. We actually do. We really appreciate it. And it's okay if everyone reaches out to you, I'm gathering, right? If someone has a question or someone heard something and they're like
Absolutely.
curious,
Please.
and if they want to train with you, I know, we're all local here in the North Palm, Juneau, Palm Beach Gardens area, but obviously you all could connect someone to somebody probably somewhere else because there's a network. I'm sure if someone's listening in New York or California, you probably know somebody that lives out there that you could direct them to. So I just want to open up the idea that like whoever's listening, feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to assist any way we can. Is there
Mhm.
anything else that you guys feel like we missed I mean, I guess usually when I end a podcast, I'll ask you to give me some sort of like final little inspiration or motivation, or is there something you want to finish with? So I'd like to open that opportunity up for all three of you. And we can go around. Let's start with Mika, Aurora, sorry, and Natalie. Mika first. Is there anything you'd like to close with, Mika?
Uh, I don't know. You should, if you never tried jiu-jitsu, maybe you should come for class, learning that you can respond like effective in a difficult situation. It's empowering. So
Mhm.
I mean, come to, at least give a try. So it will be
Cool. What about you, Aurora? What do you think?
I would say, I wouldn't let, maybe if I wouldn't say suffering, but maybe if you feel like you're not the right body type, you're not the right age, you're not the right, height, weight, whatever it may be, that you have some type of disability, like I don't want that to hinder you from ever trying jujitsu, because it really has become a type of like way of life for everybody, honestly. And I think anybody and anyone could find something somewhere in it to benefit that would transfer over into your everyday life.
Yes. Thank you, Aurora.
Mhm.
Natalie, what do you think? I think I can hear your kids over there. Are they having fun?
Yeah, guys, sorry, they just got back, so they're pretty
No, it's
loud.
totally cool. It's totally cool. I just
It's part of
wanted
life.
to, I saw you trying to turn your microphone off and turn it on. So no worries at all. Kids are cool. We like kids. Yes.
Thank you. It's part of it, right? But
Yeah.
I think if I had to say one thing, it would just be that if anybody out there that has any fear or has gone through trauma or
Mhm.
or an injury, all those things are part of life, and I think both jujitsu and yoga have a place for that. and that you can work through with all of those. It's not, not gonna push through pain, but you're gonna work with it. And we all have those at all different types and stages of our life. So we're in this all together.
Well
I'm gonna
said.
try out a self-defense.
Well said. We are all in this together. I agree. Well, oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. I can't wait to share this. And I think that's about it.
All
Y'all
right.
feel good? You feel like we
Yeah.
did it? I think we
Awesome.
did it. I
Yeah, I
think we
think
did
we
it.
did it too. I'm
All
excited for the little,
Thank
little
you.
retreat that we're gonna have. Yeah, it's really cool. Thanks for having us.
Yes, is my pleasure, and I'm really excited to see you guys practicing yoga. And I'm gonna have to follow your advice, Mika, and come learn some grappling and just get over my fear and just try it. I'll voice my concern. I'll be like, please don't pin me down in my back, and
Yeah.
then I trust that you all will listen. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.